Welcome to the Stop Over Drinking and Start Living podcast, where high-achieving, goal-oriented rebel women come to learn how to live a vibrant and fulfilling life without requiring alcohol to get through it. No labels, no judgments, no saying you'll never drink again. Just real proven methods to help you stop rebelling against yourself with alcohol so you can drink less and do more. I'm your host, Angela Mascenik. Let's dig in. Welcome to episode 384. Hindsight is helpful, it just shows up too late. Well, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. How's everybody doing? I am in Lisbon again. And before too long, I won't be saying that because I'll be living in Lisbon and I'm super excited. We make the big move at the end of June. The whole family settling in, no more back and forth. I'm very excited. And I'm here right now leading one of my Founders Circles retreats. And we just kicked it off yesterday, and it's just amazing. These women are so beautiful and so brave, and two of them are traveling internationally for the first time on their own and decided to do something different and take a risk and get out of their comfort zone. And it's been so fun to watch them open up and share and see the magic and the beauty of the Magic House. Of course, yesterday we walked to get massages and we had a couple of amazing private chef created meals and some coaching. And today we are doing a little art project at the Magic House and other things that I can't share yet because it's a surprise for them. So if you're interested, I've got 2 spots left for next April 2027. If you want to check that out, I'll put the link in the show notes. And then after that, I'll be creating new retreats here at the Magic House and in Portugal and maybe beyond. So make sure that you are checking the website and following me on all the things for more information on that. But today, I want to talk about hindsight. Hindsight can be very valuable, but it shows up too late. And I heard that line on a TV show that I was actually watching with Coach Steph last night called Legends. It's a British show. I don't know if you can get it in the US. You might be able to. But it was like a crime undercover investigator type show, and they're trying to take down a big drug lord. And, you know, they're evaluating their moves and the mistakes that they're doing and whatnot in this process. And one of the characters says, hindsight is too late. And I was like, ooh, that's good. Right? Because like hindsight, of course, we wish we would have known, we should have known, right? And we have all this information after the fact that we wish we would have had before the fact, right? In any type of situation. And the thing is, with people who overdrink, we have a lot of hindsight, right? The decades of hindsight that we have around our patterns with drinking. And when you work with me, I encourage you to do evaluations on your overdrinks because they have valuable information, right? But the ticket to actually making change is to take that hindsight and to turn it into foresight and use that information that you got in the hindsight to prevent it from happening again. And this is where a lot of people don't, right? They collect the data. They see the pattern. They say things like, I didn't need that extra drink, or I should have known, or I wish I would have stopped. You have the information. You have the hindsight. So let's use it to prevent that from happening again. Okay, so we're going to dig into this in this podcast episode. So hindsight comes at the worst possible time, right? It's like, why do I have to learn this lesson again? It's the next morning when you're tired, disappointed, and you're already sort of moving into this shame and, regret, right? And at that point in time, the clarity that you are receiving from the information, the thing that you are learning, doesn't actually help you because the moment that you wanted that hindsight has already passed. And I hear this from you guys all the time, and I experience this too, right? It's like, I know that I was drinking because I was stressed. I know that it was a long work week and I was looking for something to take the edge off and to relax and shut it all down at the end of the week, right? And they feel frustrated because they have all this information and they don't stop in those moments, right? And the clarity becomes so clear to them after the fact. And they're not converting that information into anything useful. It's just sitting there in this collection of regret and shame and bad memories instead of being put to work. So I want to take you through what a typical hindsight story sounds like, because I want you to hear the juicy information in it. And if you've been doing the work with me as a private client or in a Live AF or another coaching program, you know how to do this, but maybe you haven't done that yet. And maybe you need a refresher. So let's say you wake up Saturday morning feeling awful, or maybe it's a Monday morning, whatever morning you're feeling awful, and you're replaying the night before. And you remember that you had a rough work week, and you remember that you were already feeling depleted. Okay? You walked in the door that afternoon, you remember thinking, I just need to decompress. And you remember that first glass felt like relief. And then you remember thinking that the second glass, and after that, I should stop here. But you didn't. And you remember that. And now, look at everything that we just went through. You were depleted going in. That was the emotional trigger. Okay, the stress, the exhaustion, tiredness. And you had a window there, a moment, a glass or two when you knew. And then you overrode it, right? And that's just not a story. That is a map. That is your complete picture of the pattern that you were in. And that information there is so rich. It's so juicy. It's very specific, and it's specific to you. And the only problem with this story now is that you're reading this map, this blueprint, after you've already gone off the trail, right? And so the reframe and the shift is taking the hindsight and turning that into foresight. And you don't need information. You don't need to learn something new, right? You don't need any of that. You already know. So you're not starting from zero, right? There's gold, there's a nugget in this hindsight. And so what you need to do is you need to take that information and that map that you've already drawn, right? If you actually were to draw it out on a piece of paper, step by step, walk in door, a little line, standing in kitchen, a little picture, a stick figure, opening refrigerator, right? Another line, sitting at the kitchen counter, drinking the wine, right? There's a map, right? And you could put little thoughts or little emotions next to your stick figure. And if you draw that out and write that out and start reading it before that Friday night or before that evening that this happens, it will help you. And we don't need to read it after anymore. We don't need to read this after anymore. That's foresight. And it can be so valuable for you. And it's not you being perfect or white knuckling or avoiding or setting up a bunch of different rules, right? That's not what I'm talking about. You're using the data and you have it written out, pen to paper, not up in your head, y'all. I was talking to somebody about higher education, actually one of the retreaters, and how a professor of hers or a colleague of hers was sharing that they eliminated people using computers and phones in their classroom to take notes. And if they were going to take notes, it had to be pen to paper or an actual stylus on an iPad or something. And that's because we actually learn information better when we slow down, and that process of extracting the information from what you're seeing or from what's in your brain to paper is actually a better learning process, because it's like a multi-step process. When your brain if there's something inside of your brain, so like we're talking about taking the hindsight and writing it down, right? And writing out the map that you saw in the hindsight. it's taking it out and it's going through your body into your hand and you're writing out, and then you're reading it again in paper, right? So like there's a process of, it's like a double hit of information and learning. And it's a slower process. And you connect more to the information that you're writing than you do just like typing it out. It's too fast. Your brain doesn't have time to actually read that. And so I want you to do this because it will help you have the foresight better, and it will help your brain remember that we're not going to do it this way again, that there's a map that you've already seen, you already know where this is going. So you take that information and you read it and you remember. And if you're in that same situation, say it was a Friday night, like in the example that I'm sharing with you, and you read it on Friday morning and you read it again after work on Friday night, you know where this is going if you don't interrupt that and create a new map. So I'm just going to reiterate this again. Write your hindsight moments down. I know you've replayed them in your head, right? You got to write them down. You'll see the patterns more clearly. They're right in front of you instead of just spinning in your head, right? When you write them down, look for these three things: the time of day, or just the day of the week, the emotional state you were going into it, and what happened just before. The event, the conversation, the feeling that you're having. You'll find that your patterns are not random. It's a handful of scenarios that you've lived day in and day out for most of your drinking story, right? There's a specific time of day, a specific emotional state, certain social situations. Maybe it's a family dynamic. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's just boredom, stress from a particular source. You know what they are. And once you can see that, you have your foresight triggers. And then this is the second thing. I want you to create an if-then plan. So like this is kind of like business strategy or like roadmaps, right? Like I can't remember what the term is called, but it's like a flow chart, okay? So you have like this if-then. If it's this, then you have like the arrow in the box that drops down, right? So an if-then plan for your top 2 or 3 scenarios. And I want you to be specific because vague intentions do not work, okay? Be very specific. It's not, I'm going to try to drink less on weeknights, or I'm not going to drink during the work week and I'll have 2 or 3 on the weekends. That's not specific enough. It's more like, if it's Thursday and I've had a hard day and I walk in the door feeling depleted, I'm going to change my clothes and go for a walk before I do anything else. And then I'm going to eat something. And then I'm going to give myself 20 minutes before I make any more decisions. That's how specific it is. The more specific it is, the more useful it is. And your brain can actually run that script, that foresight, that plan, that map. Okay? Third thing, practice the pause. And this is where your body comes in. You already know that you have a window, right? There's a moment when a part of you knows. There's this intuitive hit, right? A little red flag, a little whisper that comes up right before you choose to override it. And that flag is your body trying to communicate to you. And most of the time we override it because we're living entirely in our heads. And we're up in our heads and we're managing and rationalizing and explaining to ourselves why this time is fine. And that's not where the most useful information is, okay? The practice here is learning how to notice that flag in your body, to feel it in your body before your brain talks you out of it. It's just a pause, a breath, a check-in, I'm being conscious right now. I'm being aware. I'm not on autopilot. Okay? What am I feeling? What do I need in this moment? 3 questions. Takes about 20 seconds. And it gives you that gap, that pause enough to make a conscious choice instead of a reactive one. So to go over these 3 things again real quick, just to really bring this home. We're going to write our hindsight moments down. Okay? If you had an overdrink recently, I want you to write down those 3 things. What happened? What day of the week? What was the feeling? Okay? And then that moment that you knew. Time of the day, the emotional state you were into, and what happened right before. The second thing, create an if-then plan for your top 2 or 3 scenarios. Remember, exactly those details. I will do this if I've had a hard day, etc., etc. The third thing is practicing that pause. Get out of your head and into your body. Connect with your breath. Become conscious. You are not behind, I promise. You're not lacking any self-awareness. You know. You're not somebody who doesn't just get it, okay? You've got years of data here, years of hindsight, and you've walked through these mornings of regret and wishing you did things differently enough. You need to put pen to paper and create a foresight plan for you with this juicy information of the hindsight that you have. It's helpful. It's just showing up too late. Let's end it. Let's create some foresight. Okay? That's it. I love you, my friends. And I'd love to help you with this. If you want to hire me as your life coach, we can talk about that. If you want to join me at the Magic House Retreat, if you want to come into my membership, Alive AF, all you need to do is look through the show notes, click these links, send me an email, send me a message, and we'll figure it out. I believe in you. You can do this. Talk to you soon.